Before we start, please subscribe, like, comment and turn on the notification bell so you be notified when a new video is posted. The formula can was empty. Elena Moore stood in her cramped kitchen at 2 in the morning, shaking the container one more time as if sheer desperation could make powdered milk appear. Her 6-month-old daughter, Mia, screamed from the bedroom, a hungry, piercing wail that cut through Elena's chest like broken glass. 3 days until payday. Negative $12 in her checking account. And now this. She pressed her palms against the counter, fighting back tears. This wasn't supposed to be her life. 2 years ago, she'd been a corporate compliance analyst making $70,000 a year. She'd had a retirement plan. She'd had a future. Then came the pregnancy. Then came Marcus walking out the door with nothing but a text message that said he wasn't ready to be a father. Then came the choice between keeping her job or keeping her sanity. She'd chosen Mia. Every time. But tonight, that choice felt like it was suffocating her. The apartment was too quiet except for Mia's crying. The refrigerator hummed with almost nothing inside. A single light bulb flickered overhead because Elena kept meaning to replace it but couldn't afford the $1.50 for a new one. The walls were thin enough that she could hear her neighbor's television through the plaster. This was what rock bottom looked like. This was what happened when you chose love over security. Elena grabbed her phone with shaking hands. The screen showed 15% battery. Of course. She scrolled through her contacts, stomach twisting with humiliation, until she found the number a neighbor had given her last week, some local charity that helped struggling mothers. She'd sworn she'd never use it. Pride was all she had left. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Then Mia screamed again, and pride didn't matter anymore. Hi, I'm so sorry to bother you this late. My name is Elena Moore. I have a 6-month-old baby and I'm completely out of formula. I don't get paid until Friday. Is there any way you could help me with $50 to buy some tonight? I'll pay it back. I promise. I just need my baby to eat. She hit send before she could change her mind. The message showed as delivered. Elena set the phone down and went to comfort Mia, bouncing her gently, whispering apologies into her soft hair. She sang a lullaby her own mother used to sing to her, back when life made sense, back before everything fell apart. 20 minutes later, the phone buzzed. Elena lunged for it, expecting an automated response or maybe, hopefully, a yes. What she got instead made her heart stop. Is your baby okay right now? The message was too direct. Too personal. Wrong somehow. Elena looked at the contact name again. Her blood went cold. This wasn't the charity number. She texted her old work contact, Sarah Chen, except the number had changed. This was someone else entirely. Oh God, Elena whispered. She just begged a complete stranger for money. I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore that. I'm mortified. The reply came instantly. Don't be. Answer the question. Is your baby okay? Elena's fingers trembled as she typed. She's hungry but she's safe. I'll figure something out. Again, I'm really sorry. The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Elena held her breath, heat flooding her face. This was humiliation on a level she'd never experienced. Begging strangers for help because she couldn't even afford to feed her own child. Then her phone buzzed with a payment notification. $100. From an account labeled simply, A. Cole. Elena stared at the screen, unable to process what she was seeing. Before she could respond, another message arrived. Buy the formula. Buy yourself dinner too. You don't owe me an explanation or a payback. Just make sure your daughter eats. Tears blurred Elena's vision. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or humiliated or suspicious. Who sends $100 to a stranger at 2 in the morning? She looked at the payment notification again, reading the fine print through her tears. Transaction code, RC7749 account B. Her breath caught. That format. She knew that format. RC meant refund code. The number sequence, the account designation. This was the internal coding system from Meridian Financial Group, the Fortune 500 company where she'd worked in compliance. But only employees had access to those codes. And they were never supposed to appear on personal transactions. Ever. Elena wiped her eyes and looked at the code again. Her brain, exhausted as it was, started working through the problem automatically. RC codes were stripped from all external transactions by automated filters. Seeing one here meant either a catastrophic system failure or someone had manually bypassed security protocols. Neither option was good. Elena's hands weren't shaking from fear anymore. They were shaking from recognition. Something was very wrong here, and her old instincts, the ones she thought she'd buried under diapers and sleepless nights, were screaming at her. She typed carefully. "Thank you so much. Can I ask you something? This payment code, RC7749, do you work in corporate finance?" The dots appeared. Then vanished. For 3 full minutes, nothing. Elena wondered if she'd crossed a line, if she'd just scared away the one person who'd helped her tonight. She paced the kitchen, phone clutched in her hand, mentally kicking herself for not just saying thank you and moving on. Finally, the phone buzzed. "How do you know that code?" Elena's pulse quickened. She could hear it in the text: tension, surprise, maybe alarm. "I used to work in compliance. That's an internal refund routing code. It shouldn't be visible on personal payments unless there's a system error or something else." Another long pause. When the response came, it was just 2 words. "Call me." A phone number appeared below the message. Elena looked at sleeping Mia, finally quiet after drinking the last drops of an old formula container mixed with water. She looked at the $100 that meant her baby would eat tomorrow. She looked at the transaction code that didn't belong. Every logical part of her brain said to let this go, buy the formula, move on with her life. She'd left the corporate world behind for a reason. The stress, the politics, the constant pressure to be perfect while men got promotions for being mediocre. She'd walked away from all of that. But the part of her that used to catch financial discrepancies worth millions, the part she tried so hard to ignore, that part was wide awake now. That part was whispering that this mattered. That this was important. That maybe, just maybe, the universe had put that wrong number in front of her for a reason. She dialed the number. A man answered on the first ring. His voice was deep, controlled, but carrying an edge of exhaustion that Elena recognized. It was the sound of someone who'd been awake too long, worrying about problems they couldn't solve. "This is Adrian Cole." Elena's stomach dropped. Adrian Cole, CEO of Meridian Financial Group. The man whose face appeared in Forbes and Bloomberg. The billionaire whose company managed assets worth more than small countries. She'd seen him exactly twice during her time at Meridian, once at a company-wide meeting and once in an elevator. Both times he'd been surrounded by executives and bodyguards. "Mr. Cole, I'm Elena Moore. I'm the one who texted you by mistake. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize." "The code," he interrupted, his voice sharp. "You said it shouldn't be visible. Why?" Elena blinked, thrown by his directness. No small talk. No acknowledgement of the weirdness of this situation. Just straight to business. Because RC codes are internal routing markers for refund processing. They are supposed to be stripped out before any transaction hits a personal account. If you're seeing them, it means something's bypassing the standard filters. "How long did you work in compliance?" "For years. I left 2 years ago when I had my daughter." "And you noticed this immediately?" It wasn't a question. Elena hesitated. "Yes. It's like seeing a typo in a headline. Once you know what to look for, you can't unsee it." "What else do you see when you look at that code?" Elena closed her eyes, pulling up everything she remembered about Meridian's systems. "The number sequence is too high. RC codes in the 7,000 range are reserved for international refunds over $50,000. But you sent me $100 domestically. That code shouldn't exist in this context at all." The silence on the other end stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. Then Adrian Cole said something that changed everything. "Miss Moore, I've been trying to find a systems integrity issue for 8 months. My company is bleeding money and every auditor I've hired says the books are clean. But I know something's wrong. I can feel it. And you just identified something in 30 seconds that an army of accountants missed." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "I only noticed because I happened to see the code. I'm sure your team is." "My team is looking in the wrong places," Adrian said sharply. "Or they're looking exactly where someone wants them to look. Miss Moore, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. If I sent you my company's transaction logs, could you find what's wrong?" The question hung in the air between them. Elena looked around her tiny apartment. At the second-hand furniture held together with duct tape. At the eviction notice she'd hidden in a drawer, hoping it would somehow disappear. At Mia, peaceful now in her crib, trusting that her mother would always find a way. I have a 6-month-old baby and 4 hours of sleep a night, Elena said automatically. I'm not exactly in a position to name your price. The words were simple but they carried weight. This wasn't a casual offer. This was desperation meeting opportunity. Elena could hear it in his voice. Adrian Cole was at the end of his rope, grasping at straws, willing to trust a stranger because everyone else had failed him. I don't want money, Elena heard herself say. The words surprised her even as she spoke them. I want information. If I find something, I want to know what it is. No secrets. No corporate cover-ups. Complete transparency. Another pause. Then, quietly, deal. And I work from home. On my schedule. Around my daughter. Agreed. And Mr. Cole. Elena's voice hardened. If I find fraud, we report it. Not bury it. Not negotiate with it. Report it. I won't be part of a cover-up. For the first time, she heard something like respect in his voice. Miss Moore, if you find fraud, I'll personally escort whoever's responsible to the federal building. Do we have an understanding? Elena closed her eyes. She was about to dive back into a world she'd left behind. A world of spreadsheets and shell companies and corporate warfare. But this time, she'd do it on her terms. This time, she'd have leverage. This time, she wouldn't be disposable. Send me the files, she said. I'll start tonight. You need sleep. My daughter needs formula. You need answers. We're both running on empty, Mr. Cole. Might as well make it count. She heard him exhale, something between a laugh and a sigh. I'll send them in 20 minutes. Encrypted. Password protected. Elena. Yes. Thank you. For answering a wrong number text from a desperate CEO. The call ended. Elena sat in the darkness, holding her phone, wondering what she'd just agreed to. Wondering if this was desperation or destiny. Wondering if she was about to save $1 billion empire or destroy what was left of her own life. Mia stirred in her crib, making soft sleeping sounds. Elena stood, checked on her daughter, brushed a hand across her soft hair, and whispered, Mama's going to fix this. I promise. Then she walked to her laptop, the one she hadn't opened for work in 2 years. Dust covered the keyboard. The battery was dead. She plugged it in, powered it on, and waited as it hummed to life. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. 20 minutes later, an email arrived. No subject line. No message. Just a single attachment marked, confidential, Meridian Systems Audit Q1 Q3. Elena's cursor hovered over the file. Once she opened this, there was no going back. She'd be stepping into something big, something dangerous, something that could either save her or swallow her whole. She clicked. The file expanded across her screen. Rows and rows of transactions filled her vision. Millions of dollars moving through accounts, vendors, subsidiaries. To anyone else, it would look like corporate noise, the normal chaos of a major financial institution doing business. But Elena had spent 4 years learning to hear the signal beneath the static. She started with the basics. Sorted by transaction type. Filtered by amount. Looked for patterns in timing. Within the first 30 minutes, she noticed something odd. Refunds to vendor accounts were clustering on specific days of the month, the 15th and the 30th. Not unusual by itself, but the amounts were strange. Always just under the threshold that would trigger automatic review. Elena pulled up a second spreadsheet and started tracking the vendor names. Most were legitimate. Office supplies, IT services, consulting firms. But scattered among them were names that didn't quite fit. Generic names. Alpha Business Solutions. Summit Professional Services. Cascade Enterprises. She ran the names through a basic business registry search. The first 2 came back clean. The third, Cascade Enterprises, had been registered 8 months ago. No website. No public records. No employees listed. Elena's pulse quickened. She dug deeper, cross-referencing Cascade's account activity with other transactions in the system. The company had received exactly 47 payments from Meridian, each one between $45,000 and $49,000. Just under the $50,000 threshold that required executive approval. She calculated the total. $2.2 million. To a company that didn't exist. Gotcha, Elena whispered. But that was just one thread. She kept pulling. By 4 a.m, she'd found 3 more shell companies. By 6, she'd mapped a network of fake vendors all receiving payments in the same suspicious pattern. By 8, when Mia woke up crying for breakfast, Elena had documented over $12 million in fraudulent transactions. She fed Mia with shaking hands, her mind still racing through the data. Someone inside Meridian was running a sophisticated embezzlement scheme. They'd created fake companies, routed payments through legitimate-looking accounts, and kept every transaction small enough to avoid automated alerts. It was brilliant. It was criminal. And it had been running for at least 3 years. Elena put Mia down for her morning nap and called Adrian Cole. He answered on the first ring, his voice rough with exhaustion. Did you find something? I found $12 million in fraudulent payments, Elena said without preamble. Shell companies. Fake vendors. All structured to stay under review thresholds. Mr. Cole, someone's been systematically stealing from you for years. The silence on the other end was absolute. How certain are you? Adrian's voice was deadly calm. 100%. I can document every transaction. I can trace every company. This isn't accounting error. This is deliberate, organized fraud. Who? I don't know yet. But whoever it is has deep access to your financial systems. They know your protocols. They know your thresholds. They've designed this to be invisible. Elena paused. Mr. Cole, this is bigger than I thought. We need to bring in authorities. Today. No. Elena blinked. Excuse me. If we bring in authorities now, whoever's doing this will destroy evidence and disappear. I need you to find out who's behind it first. Then we move. Mr. Cole, that's... I'm not asking you to break any laws, Adrian interrupted. I'm asking you to finish what you started. Find the person. Give me a name. Then we'll bring down the full weight of the law on them. Elena's mind raced. He was right, in a way. If they tipped their hand too early, the perpetrator could wipe servers, shred documents, flee the country. But continuing to investigate alone was risky. If she was caught, she'd have no legal protection. I need something in writing, Elena said. A contract that authorizes me to investigate on behalf of Meridian. Something that protects me if this goes sideways. You'll have it within the hour. What else do you need? Full access to your personnel files. Bank records. Email archives. And Mr. Cole? I need you to act completely normal. Don't change any routines. Don't confront anyone. If the person behind this suspects we're onto them, they'll run. Understood. Elena. Yes. Be careful. Whoever's doing this has already proven they're willing to steal millions. They won't hesitate to hurt you if they feel threatened. The call ended. Elena sat in her apartment, heart pounding, Mia sleeping peacefully in the next room. She'd just agreed to hunt a corporate criminal. A criminal with resources, connections, and everything to lose. Her phone buzzed. The contract arrived, ironclad, comprehensive, signed by Adrian Cole and countersigned by Meridian's legal team. Elena read every word, then signed it electronically. She was officially a fraud investigator again. Over the next 72 hours, Elena barely slept. She worked through Mia's naps, through the middle of the night, through early mornings when exhaustion made her eyes blur. She cross-referenced employee access logs with transaction timestamps. She built timelines of when fake companies were created versus when certain executives joined the company. She analyzed email metadata looking for communication patterns. And slowly, terribly, the picture came into focus. The shell companies had all been registered by the same law firm, one that specialized in corporate privacy. The payments all flowed through accounts controlled by a single department, finance. And the authorization codes buried in the transaction metadata all traced back to one person's digital signature. Richard Voss. Chief Financial Officer. Adrian Cole's right-hand man for 12 years. Elena stared at the evidence on her screen, her stomach churning. Richard Voss wasn't just some mid-level employee. He was a trusted executive. A public figure. A man who'd been photographed shaking hands with senators and regulators. Taking him down wouldn't just expose fraud, it would send shockwaves through the entire financial industry. She called Adrian at midnight on the third day. "I know who it is." "Who?" Elena took a breath. "Richard Voss." The silence stretched for 10 seconds. 15. 20. When Adrian finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "You're certain?" "I've triple-checked everything. The shell companies were created using law firms he has personal connections with. The payment authorizations all carry his digital signature. The timing of the thefts correlates with his promotion to CFO 3 years ago. And Adrian? He's not just stealing. He's building something bigger." "What do you mean?" Elena pulled up her final analysis. "The money isn't going into personal accounts. It's being funneled into an investment group, one that's been quietly accumulating Meridian stock. Once they have enough shares and once your company is weak enough from the bleeding, they'll force a hostile takeover. Richard isn't just robbing you. He's positioning himself to own you." "Jesus Christ." Adrian's voice cracked. 12 years. He was at my wedding. He met my son. We've had dinner together hundreds of times. How did I not see it?" "Because he's good at this. And because you trusted him. That's not weakness, Mr. Cole. That's being human." "What do we do now?" "Now." Elena saved all her files to 3 separate encrypted drives. "Now we bring in the FBI. We notify the SEC. We freeze all accounts tied to those shell companies. And we do it simultaneously so he can't run. He'll fight back. He has resources. Connections. Lawyers. So do we. We have evidence. Documentation. A clear pattern of criminal behavior. And Mr. Cole? We have something he doesn't." "What's that?" "The truth." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Document continues with remaining sections of the story. The confrontation. 24 hours later, Elena stood in the lobby of Meridian Financial Group's headquarters, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that seemed to pierce the sky. She'd been here before, years ago, when she was just another employee. Now she was walking in carrying proof that could destroy the company or save it. Mia was with a neighbor, safe and fed. Elena had kissed her goodbye that morning not knowing if she'd be coming home as a hero or a target. The weight of 3 encrypted USB drives in her pocket felt like they might pull her through the floor. A security guard escorted her to the executive floor. The elevator doors opened directly into Adrian Cole's private office. He was standing by the window, silhouetted against the city skyline. When he turned, Elena saw a man younger than she expected, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and eyes that looked like they hadn't rested in months. But it was his expression that struck her. Not anger. Not fear. Relief. "Miss Moore," he said quietly. "Thank you for coming." Elena stepped into the office. "I brought everything. But Mr. Cole, once we start this, there's no going back. If Richard finds out we're investigating him before we secure the evidence with authorities, he could destroy the company out of spite." Adrian nodded slowly. "I've already contacted our outside legal counsel and a federal prosecutor I trust. They're in the conference room next door. I also have FBI agents standing by. But they need to hear it from you first. They need to understand the full scope." Elena's hands trembled slightly. This was it. The moment everything became real. Then let's not waste time. For the next 2 hours, Elena stood in front of federal prosecutors, FBI agents, and Meridian's legal team. She walked them through every shell company, every fraudulent transaction, every piece of evidence that pointed to Richard Voss. She showed them the authorization codes, the email metadata, the timeline that proved coordination and intent. She answered every question they threw at her. Yes, she was certain. Yes, she could testify. Yes, she understood the implications. No, she had not been coerced. No, she had no personal vendetta. She was simply doing what she'd been hired to do, find the truth. When she finished, the lead FBI agent leaned back in his chair and whistled softly. "Miss Moore, this is the most comprehensive fraud documentation I've seen in 15 years. If even half of this holds up in court, Richard Voss is going to prison for a very long time." "It'll hold up," Elena said quietly. I made sure of it. The prosecutor nodded. We'll need to move fast. Coordinate asset freezes, search warrants, arrest warrants. Mr. Cole, we'll need your full cooperation. You have it, Adrian said. Whatever you need. Then we execute tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. simultaneous raids on Mr. Voss's home, office, and known associates. Miss Moore, you'll need to be available to walk our forensic team through the digital evidence. Elena nodded. I'll be here. As the meeting broke up, Adrian pulled Elena aside. His voice was low, intense. You know he's going to come after you. When Richard realizes you're the one who exposed him, he'll try to destroy your credibility. Your reputation. Maybe worse. I know. And you're still willing to do this. Elena thought about Mia. About the life she wanted her daughter to have. About the kind of person she wanted to be. I didn't come this far to back down now. Adrian studied her face for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into his desk and pulled out a folder. Before this all goes down, I want you to have this. Elena opened it. Inside was an employment contract. Chief Compliance Officer. Salary, $250,000 per year. Full benefits. Flexible hours. On-site childcare. Mr. Cole, I can't. Yes, you can. Whether Richard goes to prison or walks free, Meridian needs to rebuild. And I need people I can trust. People who see what others miss. People who won't compromise their integrity for convenience. He paused. Elena, you saved my company. Let me give you the position you deserve. Elena looked at the contract, her vision blurring with tears. 48 hours ago, she'd been begging strangers for $50. Now she was being offered a future. I'll think about it, she whispered. That's all I ask. Elena left the building that evening as the sun was setting. The city was bathed in gold light, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere in that city, Richard Voss was having dinner with his family, completely unaware that his world was about to implode. Somewhere, FBI agents were preparing search warrants. Somewhere, prosecutors were building a case that would make headlines. And somewhere in a tiny apartment, Mia was waiting for her mother to come home. The verdict. Richard Voss's trial began 4 months later. Elena sat in the witness box, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. For 6 hours, she walked the jury through every piece of evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Richard Voss was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. His assets were frozen. His co-conspirators were arrested. The shell companies were dissolved and the stolen money was recovered. Elena sat in the courtroom gallery, holding Mia, and watched as Richard was led away in handcuffs. He turned one last time, his eyes finding hers across the room. She met his gaze without flinching. She'd won. 6 months later, Elena Moore stood in her new office at Meridian Financial Group. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You destroyed my life. But I want you to know something. You were right. I did underestimate you. And that's the mistake that cost me everything. Enjoy your victory, Miss Moore. But remember, people like me always have a contingency plan. And you just made a very powerful enemy. This isn't over. Elena stared at the message. Then she looked at Mia, laughing as she played. She opened a new file on her screen. Ongoing threats, Voss investigation. If Richard had a contingency plan, Elena would find it. Because that's what she did now. She saw what others missed. She fought back. And she protected what mattered. Because whatever came next, she was ready. She had her daughter. She had her purpose. And she had nothing left to lose. The question was, did they? And to be continued.